Hi, this is Arnold Mangioli for Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing. Let's bake! I know, I know. What's the brand? What are we doing here? We talk about so many things. Baking, recipes, is that a part of this? So, here's what I want to say it's about creative expression, it's about joy, it's about kindness, it's about living as an artist in ways that improve the world and make it a better place. Most of the artists I know, which is mostly theater artists, actors, directors, producers, casting directors, people who do their creative work artfully. Also, there's mothers, the most amazing, parents, people who work in offices or essential jobs, people who crunch numbers, who do their work creatively and joyfully and show up in ways that bring something to it of themselves and share their heart light, if you will, with the world. There's so many people who do their work amazingly, creatively, right? Baking, to me, is a creative expression, a really wonderful way to express ourselves creatively. And certainly for most of us who work in the theater, in the stage world, we haven't gotten to do that particular thing. For some of us, it's getting close to a year. That doesn't mean we can't creatively express ourselves. Now, I've always baked, and those of you who know me know that. Those of you who have been cast in shows by me would not be surprised when I would show up at the meet and greet, often with cookies, or one of my wonderful office team, Melanie, would do the same. Melanie always says to me, Arnold, we're the last two people in the world who bake. I don't think that's true, but I do know that baking isn't quite as popular a thing as it was when I was growing up. Still, it's something I learned as a creative expression and I've always enjoyed, and I do bake. So, does it have a place here? Well, I wanted to talk to you about a few things, and it seemed I might as well get some cookies made while we're doing it. So, what I have going on here is some browned butter, and I can post this recipe in the chat for you as well, in case you want to try it. So brown butter is very simply, you heat the butter in a saucepan, and eventually it starts to foam, and then some of the little cooked bits of the butterfat start to turn the butter this beautiful deep amber color, kind of brown. And then we added in some sugar, some brown sugar. I wish we had like some sort of technology. I'm sure it'll come up eventually, but I wish we had it now so you could smell this. It is so good. So I'm going to finish up this cookie dough, which then has to chill. And it's a good idea to have cookie doughs chilling, by the way, just in general. Almost all, not all, but almost all cookie doughs benefit from chilling so that all of the ingredients can kind of meld together for a bit. Sometimes for an hour, sometimes for a day and a half. Anyway, we're getting this dough underway today while I talk with you about some of this. So, first thing I want to talk to you about is taking care of yourself, taking care of ourselves, our personal setup. So when I'm baking cookies, and I don't know if I can show you here a little more of the table and what I've got going on here. That's the giant bag of sugar, eggs, vanilla, chocolate, crunched up toffee bits. The way we take care of ourselves, the way we set ourselves up, and this is true whether we're auditioning, whether we're attending a class, maybe we're doing a monologue or a musical theater class, whatever it is we're doing, we take care of ourselves by setting ourselves up well. So we might, for example, give ourselves what we need at the very beginning. I'm just checking on a little timer here to keep this relatively short, or as short as it can take to bake cookies. So for me personally, I always like to have a glass of water nearby. Some of you who know me know that at the audition table, I've always got my bottle of water. At my desk when I'm working, I always have a glass of water. It's always full. Same thing when I'm baking. Nurturing ourselves, taking care of ourselves, while we do our tasks, while we do the things we enjoy. Our bodies are 98% water. So when we drink water, when we give our bodies water, they tend to feel good. There's a beautiful poem a friend told me about so many years ago, and it was something like, the man stood naked in the ocean, and for the first time he fully understood his body. And I always thought that was so beautiful. I don't know if you're a water person like I am, that would resonate. So a glass of water nearby is good. My speaker, I always have a speaker because I'm almost always playing show tunes while I'm baking. Why? Because it brings me joy. It makes me happy. First of all, even if I'm not playing show tunes, I start with the first few ingredients, and who doesn't hear Sarah Bareilles from Waitress in their heads going, butter, sugar, flour, the opening of that song, it just goes round and round. I can't get it out. I haven't been able to bake since I saw that show easily 2 years ago without that going through my head. So speaker, music, do things with music. Those of us who love musical theater often do things with music. I also have my my gum, and the point of having gum is that if I'm chewing the gum, I won't be tempted to taste the dough, right? It's unopened, but it's a good idea, isn't it? Okay, so what else? All my ingredients, and getting the butter room temperature, getting the eggs room temperature, because then they combine better. Same way you take care of yourself if you're waiting outside an audition room. Do we look at the other actors and talk ourselves out of the job, deciding, oh, that person's more fit than me, that person's taller than me, that person, I recognize them, they've done more shows than me, whatever? Or do we take care of ourselves? Do we chew our gum or put in our headphones and ignore what's going on around us so we can get into the zone for ourselves, give ourselves what we need to go in that room and own that role for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever we're in there. Awesome. I'm going to, a few more things. The hat. Yes, I never wear caps. I really don't. But I have really long hair right now. I like to, have long hair, have short hair. I like to play with my look. And I have really long hair right now, and that's not too great while you're baking. There's a danger, of course, of individual hair could float off into your ingredients. So always some kind of a head covering, bandana, hat, whatever, to tuck the hair away. I'm a bit of a freak about cleanliness in the kitchen. I grew up Italian, and just having everything clean and everything sanitary and safe so that everybody can be safe to enjoy what they want. Kind of like, during the quarantine, we're not having Broadway theater because we have to keep everybody safe. And until we can get that underway, it's very difficult to do some of the other things we'd like to be doing. This brown butter and brown sugar and granulated sugar is starting to fluff up. So yummy. I wonder if I can show you. Can I show you? Let's see. Maybe you could see that there. It was dark brown when we started out. So good. All right. So let's see. Apron. Okay, so I love this apron. This was a gift from one of my very best friends in the world, Michael. Thank you for the apron. It's The Wizard of Oz, and it's particularly focused on Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion. And the quote written all over it is the lion's quote, sometimes I even scare myself. So here I am as a casting director talking about making cookies. Is it because I have nothing to do? No. I've always baked. I love to bake. It's because this quarantine, this grand reset of the world, certainly of our industry, I see as one of the most positive things we will experience in our lifetimes. And I love to bake. I love to creatively express. I love radical acts of kindness. See, to me, making cookies is a radical act of kindness. It's a way of saying, this is the thing. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to take time and care and get all my ingredients the right temperature and the right combination so that I can give you something wonderful. So the point of this today is just to say, how about if you have nothing to do, bake a batch of cookies and give them to a neighbor. Mail them to a friend in a priority overnight mailbox. FedEx Ground I find is much cheaper than priority mail. But whatever it is for you, send them off. Say to a friend, I was just thinking about you. Thought this would make you happy. I don't know anybody who doesn't love homemade cookies. I know for some people, Tim, Alex, this is for you. They have to be healthy and gluten-free and have, almond flour and not white flour and all that good stuff. And that's why you're gorgeous. I so admire that. But most people love some kind of cookie. Gluten-free, vegan, plain old homemade chocolate chip cookies. This is a brown butter chocolate toffee chip cookie. These are the eggs that are going to get added in. Now, here's some tricks I've learned over the way, along the way. One is you can mix your vanilla into the eggs. So this way, as the eggs combine, the vanilla is being combined throughout. So I'm going to just pour that into the butter and sugar that's already whipping. So why are we doing this? Creative expression, good enough reason. Radical act of kindness, always awesome. Always awesome to do. If you can create a radical act of kindness in your day, and that could be anything. That could be going back and holding the door for somebody after you let the door close with somebody behind you. That could be carrying Cliff Bars with you in your pocket so that when you see a homeless person, just offer them some food or some homemade cookies, right? This looks and smells so good. Okay, so those are some of the reasons we do it. Now, it's not that I have nothing to do. I'm casting a reading, I'm casting a demo recording. I'm just not as busy as we usually are because there's no Broadway theater at the moment. So, I'm finding other ways of creative expression, and I am engaging in as many radical acts of kindness as I possibly can. Because when things come back and we all get crazy busy again where we don't have a second, that's the time where sometimes those opportunities slip by and we don't take advantage of them. So I love the idea of taking advantage of those opportunities for radical acts of kindness when we can. Having the willingness to do what we can. Show up for our lives today. Make something creative where there never was a hat. I love that idea. So the next thing I'm going to do is also unconventional. For those of you who do bake, this might be something that you have heard of, maybe not. After you put the butter, sugar, flour, right? After you put the butter and sugar together and you add in the eggs and vanilla, the next step is usually to add in the dry ingredients. But this is a tip I learned from, I might be mispronouncing her name, but it's Mara Hatter, I always called her. This is a book that I was given many, many years ago. You can see how old and yellowed it is, but it's a great book about chocolate desserts. And she talks about brownies and chocolate chip cookies, and there's whole chapters on those. This was given to me as a Christmas gift years ago by Margot Harley, the founding executive director, producer of the acting company, John Houseman's acting company. And I worked for that company as an intern, as a kid, back when John Houseman and Alan Schneider and Michael Kahn were running it. Just amazing people. Anyway, sometimes we pick up tips and ideas for how to do things. For example, learning a monologue backwards. Learning a monologue backwards is a great way to memorize, because then when you're performing the monologue, every word out of your mouth, you actually know better what's coming next than what you just said, which builds confidence. It's a great trick. There are so many tricks like that that I teach in my classes that are so helpful, ways of learning things to focus on. Same thing with baking. So one of the tips or tricks from Mara Hatter's book, I'm sure some of my Jewish friends are like, that is not how that's pronounced, is that rather than mixing the baking soda with the dry ingredients, the flour and salt, baking powder, whatever else it might be, what you do to activate the baking soda is you take a little bit of warm water and you mix it together. See if I can show you that without spilling it all over the table. And you mix it together so that it becomes sort of a paste. And then before you put in the dry ingredients, while you're still mixing the butter, sugar, vanilla, and eggs, you then put in the activated liquid baking soda, because now you've activated some of the fizz and the bicarbonate of soda in there. Is that what it is? I think so. it starts to buzz and foam and fuzz and so good. Well, not fuzz. You don't want fuzz in your baking, but so good. And that incorporates better as well. So there are all these individual ways that we do things, and all of these things we learn that get incorporated in what we've learned. If you've never baked, totally cool. Want to try a recipe? One of the things my wonderful, most beloved partner brought to our relationship was this idea of a Christmas cookie party where everybody shows up with cookies that they baked to share with everyone else. It's awesome fun. And we have some friends who wanted to come to the party but were like, I don't know how to bake. And they learned to bake for the party. They just tried baking cookies. And one friend I'm thinking of in particular said it had opened a whole new door with her and her daughter in their relationship in terms of doing Christmas baking together. It's fun. And so if you've never baked, please don't be afraid of it. So I want to say a few things. One is I think it's time to add in these dry ingredients. I'm just going to check this recipe. Look, a recipe, I'm Italian. A recipe is a little bit of a jumping off point. It's not specifically like, okay, we must be very rigid. I'll say this. In baking, I'm sure you've heard it said baking is more of a science and cooking is more of an art. And there's truth to that. Because with cooking, you want to throw some cheese on, you throw some cheese on. You don't have to measure it. You can kind of do it with your eye. In baking, if it's a combination of, for example, in this case, a pound of butter and butter, sugar, 2 cups of sugar and 2/3 cup regular sugar, not the brown, 2 cups of brown, and then you add in 4 eggs, etc. That combination is very important. It must be specific. But that said, there's also art to it. For example, I'm going to throw in way more chocolate than the recipe calls for, and I'm going to throw in way more of these chopped up toffee bits. Chopped by hand. Oh, that smells so good. That the recipe calls for. So there's room for creativity everywhere. Sometimes people put a little salt on top of a cookie. When I was growing up, if you accidentally got salt into your cookie batter, more than what was required, or spilled it on top of the cookies before you baked them, my mother would have been like, throw them out. They're no good anymore. Nobody's going to eat that with all that salt all over it. Now the food trend is salty and sweet together. It's kind of fun to watch food trends as they happen. So as I'm adding the dry ingredients next, which I think is correct, brown sugar, granulated sugar, eggs, vanilla. As I'm adding this, I want to talk a little bit about how we're all whole people. So yeah, some of you know me as a casting director. Some of you know me behind the audition table. This might poof up like Barbara Eden and I Dream of Jeannie. That could happen, but let's try to add this. I think I'm going to turn down the mixer just a little bit. We all do more than one thing. I have a general manager friend who he's a private pilot. He likes to fly planes. How awesome. So awesome. Now, he also manages the budgets for many Broadway shows. We're allowed to do more than one thing. So what's the thing you want to be doing that you haven't given yourself time for? Something that maybe you would find fun or think might be enjoyable, or something with which you'd like to experiment. If you're an actor, if you're a singer, and if you're finding opportunities to do that, great. I love that. As I said, I've been finding some opportunities to cast and do the things that I love. But there's also space for more things we love right now. And my question to you is, can you find any space? Everybody's situation is different right now. Some people are still home in quarantine. Some people are taking care of loved ones who are not well. This week, at the end of the Trump presidency, we have hit 400,000 deaths in the U.S. and 2 million cases. Is that right? We've gone over. Completely unacceptable and largely avoidable. That tragedy is over now. So, my question to you is, knowing that everybody's situation is different and everybody has a different experience of things right now. Some people are working 2 and 3 jobs. Some people are essential workers and have barely had a moment to breathe since last March. Other people are benefiting from unemployment or whatever programs are available, and able to explore creatively future work opportunities. So, yeah, it's a little different for everybody. But if you are someone who has an opportunity to make things work for yourself anew, experiment, try things out, maybe in a few hours on the weekend or whatever, has an opportunity to promote some random acts of kindness, that's kind of awesome. I want to encourage all of us to celebrate ourselves as whole people. So when I'm here baking, it's partly because I bake. I love to bake. I'm not hiding that from anyone. I love it. And I'm not able to put the cookies through the screen either, but the dough has to chill overnight anyway. So what else can I tell you? I think this is pretty much, yeah, that's incorporated. So I don't know if you can see this, but it sure looks amazing. The shadow isn't really, there we go. How's that? Is that giving you an idea of how deeply delicious that brown butter, brown sugar sensitivity is? So let's throw in some cookies, shall we? Why not? Chocolate to make the cookies. Oh boy. So this is a 70% dark chocolate. I believe the recipe calls for 85% dark chocolate. I'm not sure, but that's what I made it with the first time. And my partner, whom I've mentioned, is a lot like the character that Will Ferrell plays in Elf, was like, "Bleh!" You know, when he thinks the cologne is fruit spray. Too dark. So I changed it to 70%, and it's much more popular now. The bounce of the sweetness, of course, comes from the chopped up toffee. Here's one of the things I love about baking. It's about choices, right? You can adjust what kind of chocolate you're using in your chocolate chunk or whatever type cookies. You can mix things in differently. You can put in a little more, as I say, the recipes have to be followed so that the ingredients proportionally will create a dough. But that said, you can always throw in a little more chocolate. And that's kind of a nice thing. I'm following the recipe while I talk to you. I think it's pretty much done. These definitely are going to have some flaky sea salt on top when they bake, but the dough is too soft right now to do anything. This recipe calls for two chopped up score bars. This is more than two. But that's the sweet and delicious part. All right, I'll restrain myself a little bit. So, baking, any creative act, it's about choices. It's about intention, right? It's about care, taking care with what you're doing. It's about taking care of yourself while you're doing it. So, I think it's related. What we're doing is we're going to be posting on our Instagram account. So if you're not following us on Instagram, I invite you to do that. Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing. We have an Instagram account, and we'll be posting some daily videos in which I'm baking other cookie recipes, just talking about some of these things a minute at a time. Just little 1-minute videos, because I think that's all you can post to Instagram. You can do an Instagram Live that's longer, but as I understand it, in my technological prowess, which for me goes into the left brain, which is not where I thrive necessarily, though I'm working on it. I'm even working on catching myself in that vocabulary. But I think that it is very worthwhile to creatively allow yourself to excel, to make choices, not just choices of, you know what, I'm going to take an afternoon and I'm going to bake cookies for my neighbor or to send to my parent or child or somebody whose day I want to brighten, just because you can. I'm going to make a choice to follow Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing on Instagram and Twitter because I like having positive things in my day, just little moments, little thoughts, little blips that cheer me up and that help me to focus creatively and feed my soul and nourish me toward the person I want to be. I want to, with intention, go forward of, I'm going to take this otherwise ordinary day and make it a day filled with radical acts of kindness, generosity. I'm going to focus on gratitude today. What a wonderful gift it is. This mixer, given to me by my friend Michelle, someone was getting rid of it because they were getting a new one. Amazing. She said, well, I don't need it. She's a chef. She said, oh, I don't need it, but I know someone who would love it. And the person said, great, take it off my hands. Wow, that has made my life so much better. Thank you, Michelle. And then with intention, we can choose to, look, I was using a hand mixer, little tiny $14 at the pharmacy hand mixer for years and years and years. You don't need major equipment. You don't need the top quality, most expensive chocolate in the world. Just make a batch of cookies and tell someone, hey, I love you. How can that be bad? So I hope you'll join us for our little mini baking series over the next week or two on our Instagram account. And I hope to see you again very soon. So this dough is going to go into the refrigerator and chill for a while. And then we will make them into little balls of dough onto cookie sheets with parchment paper. I used to use no parchment paper for years and years. It still works. I mean, you got to scrub the pan a little more at the end, but it's fine. And then we're going to bake some cookies and make someone's day. So enjoy, savor. So delicious. And I wish you a wonderful whatever you're doing and wherever you're doing it. And I've never actually done a live video where I was mixing ingredients to bake before. This is something I usually do quite to myself. So it's been just a joy to have you here. Be well. And aren't they beautiful? Yes. Brown butter, chocolate chunk, a little touch of sea salt on top. Oh, what's that? That's our triple chocolate chunk macadamia nut that we have been talking about on our Grow series on Instagram, in our limited baking series. And there's some gluten-free amaretti cookies. That's a bonus for those who are gluten-free. And what fun just to bake cookies. So follow your bliss. Do what's joyful, and radical acts of kindness are always welcome.